And we get our main event for the WWE Undisputed Championship. It is are we're still calling this undisputed? Please? Like, why?
It's officially the undisputed WWE Championship, yes.
Why? Why are we doing that?
When I do my written reports, I occasionally check whether they've changed it. No.
So it is Cody versus Drew for the WWE Championship. This is a straightforward match between the two. And there are a lot of commercials, in the presentation of this. We get commercials between the video package reminding us how this match was made, and then the entrances and introductions before we get more commercials, before we get to the actual match itself. So we finally, after it feels like 15 minutes, we finally get to the match here. Drew starts the match running to the back as Cody catches up to him and then brings him back and takes control. Drew then gains control after hitting Cody with a nice surprise claymore to the left arm off of an up and over. So Drew then continues working on the arm throughout the match, doing even a Shayna Baszler, Pete Dunne style stomp to the elbow. Cody comes back and brings Drew to the desk as he attempts a crossroads on top of the desk, to which Drew escapes, but their combined weight unfortunately collapsed the table anyway. So Drew, seemingly improvising at this point, pulls a table from underneath the ring and power bombs Cody through it. Back in the ring, Drew follows up with his own crossroads to Cody for a 2 count. Cody then delivers his own claymore for a 2 count. They both narrowly avoid Charles Robinson until Drew deliberately drags Robinson in front of a disaster kick attempt, laying him out. Cody then hits the crossroads, but there's no referee. So Dan Engler rushes from the back, but a flash claymore from Drew gives Drew a 2 count. Drew is mad at Dan Engler, and he continues taking it out on Cody's left arm and shoulder. Drew then has had enough, and Glasgow kisses the referee. He then goes outside and takes a chair. When Jacob Fatu comes out to take the chair away, Cody goes for another pin, but Robinson is back right now and counts a 2 count. Drew then delivers the future shock and misses the claymore. Cody Cutter leads to the crossroads as Cody Rhodes wins the championship and heads to the presumed main event of WrestleMania.
A very good match, I think. And enhanced by the fact that there were no commercial breaks in this. There were, like you said, seemingly 3 or something in the build-up to the match from when they're taping up backstage. And then we got the ring announcements from Mark Nash, and then with more ads.
So maybe a worthy sacrifice. Maybe that their justification was that we take all the commercial breaks beforehand so that we can leave it uninterrupted. I believe there might have been one that Netflix ran through, of course, so we got to see all the action. But I'm assuming on USA there was probably at least one that interrupted.
Okay, I thought they said that they were going to run it without commercial interruptions, but I may be wrong on that. A very kind of WWE mentality match, the kind of the slow. Let's slow it down, because it was lengthy, and we did get a lot of sort of limb work and that kind of thing and telling the story, but. Who better than these two to do that? I really think that they worked it really, really well. We got the unfortunate incident of the announcer desk just collapsing under them, but they worked through that really, really well. I think Cody just staggered around, Drew grabbed the table, powerbombed him through it, and they didn't really feel like they missed a beat there. The ref bump was predictable, I think, and although less so the Glasgow kiss on poor Dan Engler. So entertaining. I do wonder, in the bigger picture, is this enough at the moment for Drew to move on from Cody and his obsession with the title? I mean, he has talked so many times about praying for it. He wanted to protect the title. He kisses the title. He wanders around, but he sleeps with it and then posts it online. And clearly where we're supposed to be headed here, I think, is Drew and Jacob. But I think they've got some work to do to get a convincing pivot to that. I think, Drew will be, his character ought to be absolutely crazed with rage, at losing the title at this point to Cody. But I'm probably getting ahead of where you wanted me to go there, Wade, which was just to talk about the match itself. And I thought it was like a really good TV main event.
I agree. I thought it was well wrestled, and they managed to. Here's what I'm kind of surprised by. For a feud that we've seen like so much of already, including a 3 stages of hell match. I mean, a straight up wrestling match from these two, granted, a lot was at stake here, but still a pure wrestling match between these two, or as pure as like, 2 ref bumps in a wrestling match may be. I thought they delivered a really compelling one, and I felt as interested in this one as maybe as many of their others. So good storytelling with the arm. Ref bumps I found were effective here. But yeah, going back to what you were talking about, I think Drew will be livid, as he should be, and he will be looking to take it out on Jacob Fatu first and foremost before he has his further sights set on regaining the championship. The championship is still the motivation, but he's got to deal with Jacob Fatu first, and I think that's maybe how he'll be building to that WrestleMania match. So yeah, we've got a WrestleMania main event. I think we could say now in Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. They're going the one-on-one direction instead of any sort of like 3-way or 4-way. Yeah. Your thoughts on this new match?
I like it. I was wrong about where they might go. Of course, it's all guesswork. It's sort of fantasy booking and stuff. I just felt that with one of the titles, they might go the 3-way direction, even 4-way at one point, where I thought Jacob might be involved too. But I much prefer the dynamic of the Code Man and his buddy.
Code Man.
The Code Man and Orton. I think this is you've brought up this WrestleMania graphic for the match. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the CM Punk and Roman Reigns one.
No.
It does not look good. It's got that vertical lettering, okay, and it for all the world looks like you should be reading it from left to right, and looks like a complete mess. It's just a very poor example of graphic design. Someone pointed out to me the other
like, are we talking this one, the blue one, this thing?
Yeah,
That's pretty bad.
I think that's terrible.
Yeah. Huh,
it really just. I mean, you have to actually fight your eyesight to make it say.
Yeah, I wonder why it has that effect. I mean, the Orton Cody one is perfectly fine. That looks actually completely different. What are we looking at here? Like this sort of like dystopian. Are we looking at like at Las Vegas in the background?
I'm not sure what that is in the background. Yes, Las Vegas
like
after a nuclear attack.
Vegas sign. And what about what about Reigns and Punk? They're more of like a futuristic.
Yeah, they're in Tron or something.
Yeah,
what's going on there?
Interesting. I know what you're saying. Sorry about this detour, but I do understand. Maybe they'll correct us. Maybe not. So okay, back to the topic. I ultimately am more of a fan of having a one-on-one match between two guys. You get into much more personal storytelling between when it's just a feud between two people. This allows you to get into the deep history between the two, which I think they can fully get into. I think the most interesting element of all of this is, well, what role Sami Zayn will play in it all, and whether or not which one of them will be turning heel, if one of them will actually be turning heel ahead of the match itself to give us a more sort of like favorite, right? Both of them are baby faces right now, and you can argue Cody might be like flirting with a bit of negativity sent towards him, but that was not the case tonight. This crowd like treated him like, like a very standard like over babyface against vanquishing the heel in Drew McIntyre. I certainly felt like there would have been a chance that the sort of meta narrative being there of like Drew having his opportunity taken away by Cody Rhodes, the chosen one, I guess the other chosen one, that audiences would eventually turn on him. And maybe online, I haven't read anything, maybe there's still some of that, but at least tonight in front of Portland, they treated this like their hero won. So
yeah, I'm
curious to see how those fames may be stoked. And again, what role Sami Zayn will play in all of it.
Yeah, really curious about that, because there isn't a particularly obvious way into which Sami kind of finds his way into this, but it's pretty clear he's going to. And like you said, we need somewhat of a heel dynamic, I think, and who they go with is going to be interesting, because like yourself, I was thinking, okay, this is Portland. They perhaps at least somewhat more sophisticated crowd than some. Maybe we'll get some booing of Cody. None of that whatsoever. He was treated as the full-on baby face here. And of course, Randy got the giant pop he always gets. So yeah, I think that's going to be, they've got some work cut out to get a heel turn if they're going to do one.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just distracted because I just pulled up the future version of the Randy Orton Cody Rhodes poster. Interesting. All right. So yeah, that was our WrestleMania, and it's now set. Between our matches here, we've got of course Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, CM Punk. We've got Liv Morgan versus Stephanie McMahon, and Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill. What do you think about the at least our top 4 title matches? So
I think promising, definitely. We've got big stars with star power put together. I like this pairing that we got cemented tonight. We've got 5 or 6 weeks to really play with that and try and get some hype going and get the build right. So far, so good with the build for WrestleMania this year. My confidence levels weren't particularly high until just the last couple of weeks or so, to be honest. And what the rest of the card looks like still remains to be seen, of course, as well. But I think they're off to a pretty good start at the top level.
Yeah, up top with Cody and Orton, I like that. I like that as one of the nights of the main event. Certainly more than I would have Cody versus Drew or Jacob Fatu being somehow inserted and all that. So we'll see if they can build any more steam attached to it. We've got a lot of weeks to go, and we will keep everybody updated on every single edition of one of these shows as we head towards WrestleMania 42. Let's go to Jamie in Texas, who says, I think many of us know what was coming tonight, which begs the question, what was the point of the last 2 months of Drew's reign? I'm glad he got to be champion in front of crowds and European crowds, but the justification was Cody is better off chasing the title than being the champion heading into Mania. Yet here we are. If anything, they should have done the title change at the first match between the two back in September, or maybe even have Drew win the belt from Cena and have Cody chase for a full year. Randy versus Cody is a match many thought we could have had a year ago at WrestleMania. It's a fine match worthy of a main event, but some messy booking to get there. Certainly. So like one of the sort of justifications that's kind of been, reported out there is that they wanted Cody chasing in the Rumble in particular and also chamber matches so that he could be one of the featured people, even though he didn't win either of them. Yeah, I'm sure that's possible. I think ultimately, though, you can certainly look at this entirety of this build as, I think for me, what feels like a very clear sign that this match was not decided upon until very late in the game. And for that alone, I think you should be able to give them some criticism for what is ultimately another not very cohesive build towards a WrestleMania match.
I think that's fair criticism, I really do. But it's not... It's also not unique that there isn't a perfect build to WrestleMania every year. And I think as long as the payoff is good, people will forget.
True. It's true. Let's remember, I don't know, like Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, not a match that I think had that much interesting story heading into it. But we all remember the result of that as a pretty monumental one. Go to Anthony Russell, who says, I feel bad for Drew. I was enjoying his title run. Now it's back to regularly scheduled programming with Cody. Maybe this reign will be more interesting. Since we're getting Randy versus Cody, which is fresh, I was really hoping Drew stayed champ. Yeah, there are going to be some people who feel that way. But the stakes at WrestleMania are just a lot different because of, I think, the need to fill a stadium and also to maybe appease like a wider audience that may not have seen, the greatness of Drew McIntyre over the past several years. Instead, they will look to see what is the most marquee, value pairing. And Cody is the guy. Randy Orton is also a very mainstream name with a lot of history attached to him that represents a more fresh matchup that might attract a casual, maybe that much more than Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, and really, Drew, who would you pair Drew with? Cody again at WrestleMania?
That
I
would
don't
have
know
been
if
the only choice. It would have had to have been Cody.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't have found that compelling. Tonight's match was compelling, but for an unusually good main event on an episode of SmackDown, that's a whole different thing from what they're aiming for in front of, you know, a gigantic crowd on one of the 2 nights of WrestleMania. I do prefer the direction that they've gone in. I think Drew has had a great run with the title, and he's a tremendous character, and you know, he will get more chances.
The Post Wrestling Cafe is your one-stop shop for all of the coverage that Post Wrestling has to offer. 2 big rewind-aways this month with WWF Insurrection from May of 2002. This UK-only pay-per-view featured the Raw brand going overseas and ending with the infamous plane ride from hell. Then we're going to take a look at AWA's Super Sunday from April of 1983. A new edition of Talk Can Be Yours, plus MCU Later, Book Club, and coverage of UFC 326, TNA Sacrifice, and of course, XL editions of Rewind a Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown with all the news of the day. Join now at postwrestlingcafe.com.